Hey guys. All right, we're back with our book that we're reading together. David Walliams' Billionaire Boy. Who can remind me what the main character's name is? Oh, don't raise your hand. Go ahead and say it. Oh, say it. Don't whisper it. What was the name? That's right. It's Joe Spud. So, how did Joe become a millionaire? That's right. His dad invented a special kind of toilet paper that was wet on one side and dry on the other. And what was the one thing Joe wanted for his birthday more than anything else in the world? That's right. He wanted a friend. And we've all gone through times where we probably wanted a friend or needed a friend. So you can kind of relate with him on how he would want that. So he has everything else he wants, but he wants a friend. All right, let's read on. Bumboy. Bumboy, said Joe. Bumboy, spluttered Mr. Spud. What else do they call you at school, son? The bog roll kid. Mr. Spud shook his head in disbelief. He had sent his son to the most expensive school in England, St. Cuthbert's School for Boys. The fees were $200,000 a term, and all the boys had to wear Elizabethan ruffs and tights. Here's a picture of Joe in his school uniform. He looks a bit silly, doesn't he? The last thing Mr. Spud expected was that his son would get bullied. Bullying was something that happened to poor people. But the truth was that Joe had been picked on ever since he started at that school. The posh kids hated him because his dad made his money out of loo rolls. They said that was awfully vulgar. Bottom billionaire, the bum-white bear, Mr. Plop Paper, continued Joe. And that's just the teachers. Most of the boys at Joe's school were princes, or at least dukes of earls. Their families had made their fortune from owning lots of land. That made them old money. Joe had quickly come to learn that money was only worth having if it was old. New money from selling loo rolls didn't count. The posh boys at St. Cuthbert's had names like Nathaniel Septimus, Ernest, Bertram, Lysander, Tybalt, Zacharias, Edmund, Alexander, Humphrey, Percy, Quintin, Tristan, Augustus, Bartholomew, Tarquin, Imogen, Sebastian, Theodore, Clarence, Smythe. That was just one boy. The subjects were all ridiculously posh too. This was Joe's school timetable. On Monday, Latin, straw hat wearing, royal studies, the study of etiquette, show jumping, ballroom dancing, debating society. This house believes that it is vulgar to do it on the bottom button of your waistcoat. Scone eating, bow tie tying. Ooh, bow ties, that might sound really good. Punting, polo, the sport with horses and sticks, not the mint. Tuesday was ancient Greek, croquet, pheasant shooting, being beastly to servants class, mandolin level 3, history of tweed, nose in the air hour, learning to step over the homeless person as you leave the opera, finding your way out of a maze. Wednesday was fox hunting, flower arranging, conversing about the weather, history of cricket, history of brogue, playing stately home-top trumps, reading Harper's Bazaar, ballet appreciation class, top hat polishing, fencing, the one with swords not selling stolen goods. Thursday was antique furniture appreciation hour, Range Rover tire changing class, discussion of whose daddy is the richest, competition to see who is best friends with Prince Harry, learning to talk posh, rowing club, debating society. This house believes that muffins are best toasted. Chess, the study of coats and arms, a lecture of how to talk loudly in restaurants. Friday was poetry reading, medieval English, history of wearing corduroy, topiary class, classical sculpture appreciation class, spotting yourself in the party pages of Tatler Hour, duck hunting, billiards, classic musical appreciation afternoon, dinner party discussion topic class, how the working class smells. However, the main reason why Joe hated going to St. Cuthbert's wasn't the silly subjects. It was the fact that everyone at the school looked down on him. They thought that someone whose papa made their money from bog rolls was just too frighteningly common. I want to go to a different school, Dad, said Joe. No problem. I can afford to send you to the poshiest school in the world. I heard about this place in Switzerland. You ski in the morning and then... No, said Joe. How about I go to the local comp? What? Said Mr. Spud. I might make a friend there, said Joe. He'd seen the kids milling around the school gates when he was being chauffeured to St. Cuthbert's. They all looked like they were having such a great time, chatting, playing games, swapping cards. To Joe, it all looked so fabulously normal. Yes, but the local comp, said Mr. Spud, incredulously. Are you sure? Yes, replied Joe defiantly. I could build you a school in the back garden if you'd like, offered Mr. Spud. No, I want to go to normal school, with normal kids. I want to make a friend. Dad, I don't have a single friend at St. Cuthbert's. But you can't go to a normal school. You're a billionaire boy. All the kids will either bully you or want to be friends with you just because you are rich. It'll be a nightmare for you. Well, then I won't tell anyone who I am. I'll just be Joe, and maybe, just maybe, I'll make a friend, or even two. Mr. Spud thought for a moment, and then relented. Oh, if that's what you really want, Joe, then okay. You can go to a normal school. Joe was so excited. He bum-jumped along the sofa nearer to his dad to give him a cuddle. Don't crease the suit, boy, said Mr. Spud. So it said bum-jumped, and bum-jumping is to move places while sitting only on your bottom to power you, thus meaning you do not have to get up, much favored by the overweight. Sorry, Dad, said Joe, bum-jumping backed a little. He cleared his throat. I love you, Dad. Yes, son, ditto, ditto, said Mr. Spud as he rose to his feet. Well, have a good birthday, mate. Aren't we going to do something together tonight? Said Joe, trying to hide his disappointment. When he was younger, Joe's dad would always take him to the local burger restaurant as a birthday treat. They couldn't afford the burgers, so they would just order the chips and eat them, with some ham and pickle sandwiches that Mr. Spud would smuggle in under his hat. Oh, I can't, son. I've got a date this evening with a beautiful girl, said Mr. Spud, indicating page 3 of the Sun. Joe looked at the page. There was a photograph of a woman. Her hair was dyed white, blonde, and she had so much makeup on it was difficult to tell whether she was pretty or not. Underneath the image it read, Sapphire 19, from Bradford. Like shopping, hates thinking. Don't you think Sapphire's a little young for you, Dad? Asked Joe. It's only 27-year age gap, replied Mr. Spud in an instant. Joe wasn't convinced. Well, where are you taking this Sapphire? A nightclub. A nightclub? Asked Joe. Yes, said Mr. Spud in an offended tone. I am not too old to go to a nightclub. As he spoke, he opened up a box and pulled out what looked like a hamster that had been flattened by a mallet and put it on his head. What on earth is that, Dad? What's what, Joe? Replied Mr. Spud with mock innocence, as he adjusted the contraption to cover his bald dome. That thing on your head. Oh, this. It's a toupee, boy. Only 10 grand each. I bought a blonde one, a brown one, and a ginger one, and an afro one for special occasions. It makes me look 20 years younger, don't you think? Joe didn't like to lie. The toupee didn't make his dad look younger. Instead, it made him look like a man who was trying to balance a dead rodent on his head. Therefore, Joe chose a non-committal, Right. Well, have a good night, Joe added, picking up the remote. It looked like it would be just him and the 100-inch TV again. There's some caviar in the fridge for your tea, son, said Mr. Spud as he headed out the door. What's caviar? Well, it's fish eggs, son. Ugh! Joe didn't even like normal eggs much. Eggs laid by a fish sounded really revolting. Yeah, I had some on toast for my breakfast. It's absolutely disgusting, but it's very expensive, so we should start eating it. Can't we have bangers and mash, or fish and chips, or shepherd's pie, or something, Dad? I used to love shepherd's pie, son. Mr. Spud drooled a little, as if imagining the taste of shepherd's pie. Well, then? Mr. Spud shook his head impatiently. No. We are rich, son. We have to eat all this posh stuff now like proper rich people do. See you later. The door slammed behind him, and moments later, Joe heard the deafening roar of his father's lime green Lamborghini speeding off into the night. Joe was disappointed to be on his own again, but he still couldn't suppress a small smile. He had turned on the TV. He was going to go for an ordinary school again, to be an ordinary boy, and maybe, just maybe, make a friend. The question was, how long could Joe keep the fact that he was a billionaire a secret? All right, so now, remember that when you're answering the questions, you need to use complete sentences. Best way to do it is to restate the question. We'll go over that next.